Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Sea Talk podcast. It's your boys, Taylor and Sterling Mack. You know, we got this roundup that we're about to do pretty much for the end of the year. It's December. It's the holiday season. It's the New Year's season. It's a lot of boo loving, cuffing season, as they like to say it, as the young folks like to say, because it's a beautiful time. Sterling, how you doing? How you feeling in this, they like to call magical moment, magical season?
Yeah, it's that new year, that new me, new year like time frame. You know what I mean? Where everybody's going into the new year, you're trying to be refreshed. You're like, I'm gonna make some changes in my life. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna really commit this time. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna really do it.
Yeah.
It's good, man. It's great to be back in Atlanta as always. You miss the city when you're away for a little bit, so it's good to be back.
What's your New Year's resolution?
Ooh,
Hit you on the spot with that one.
You did. Honestly, I do have one. My New Year's resolution is to consistently break 80 in golf. That is my resolution.
You know, that's a great goal.
Thank you.
It's something that you've been striving towards, you've been working towards.
Thank you.
I like that. My New Year's resolution, it's more of a 5-minute commitment. And what I mean by that is if I can get something done in 5 minutes, task-wise, I'm gonna do it. And then I can have that task done. So it's all your smaller things that you might have having, like say for work, something comes across your desk, be like, hey, can you just shoot me this real quick? Is it going to take me more than 5 minutes? If it is, I got to put it on the back burner. I'll come back to it. But if not, let me get this done. I can get that task done. Something, and then stuff around the house. Can I do that in 5 minutes? So it's a 5-minute commitment. So then it's like getting all the small things done. So it's trying to be more efficient with the daytime, and something small I can add, something small regimented I can add into my everyday task, everyday routine.
Sure. You sound like those people on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you see that.
Hey, right? Let me tell you real quick. You want to better your life?
Right.
This is what you need to do.
That's exactly what you sound
steps.
like right now.
5 quick steps. I'm not going to put it in the damn video. I'm going to put it in the caption so that you have to go read it. I hate when I see that, though. It's like, all right, here are these tips and tricks on how to land your ball 5 feet from the hole in golf. Oh, I'm not going to actually talk about it in the video. You're going to have to go read it in my profile or click 2 extra links to get to it. Yeah, it's so stupid. I hate it. Absolutely.
That is what you sound like right now, though.
No. Not that wasn't that. I'm not MLM over here. I'm not marketing you on anything. I'm not trying to do a little pyramid scheme on people. I'm not trying to be that type of person. I'm just trying to tell you. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just trying to add that little 5-minute rudimentary thing into my routine. It's easy. Trying to be more efficient during the day.
I mean, I do get that because you know what happens to your point with the 5-minute rule here is you see a task, you have a task, and then you're like, all right, I can get to that at some point, and then it piles up, and now you have multiple tasks. Yeah, then you forget, and you're like, now I have multiple things to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
And it's like let me just get this over. So that's going to be my New Year's resolution because everybody's like, if you're doing a drastic change in life for New Year's resolution, you're not doing it right. You need to set the groundwork and set the steps. Don't be overly dramatic. Don't be overly corrective in your New Year's resolution because you're not going to stick to it. I hate people that do that. It's like if somebody wants to say, I'm cutting something out cold turkey, let them do it. Let them do it. You know what I mean? Not like, hey, just cut this one thing out so you can gradually get there. Maybe that does make sense. But if somebody feels the urge, like, hey, I'm going to stop eating candy after 8 o'clock because I've been doing it like that. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to take one piece at like 8 to 9, and then I'm going to gradually get back to 8 o'clock. If somebody wants to cut something out, let them cut it out. Let them do what they want to do. I hate this. Like you said, I agree with you on the Instagram thing. Too many people out here don't have degrees. They got internet degrees from wherever, Google, Bing, Go, whatever that one's called, and then now they're trying to spit game over here and make money off of folks because they can do it on social media with a prominent following.
Go. That's not a search engine.
Yeah, it is. Do you talk
is
tech,
it?
but you live under a rock?
DuckDuckGo. I haven't heard it. Are you?
You've never heard of DuckDuckGo? It's like Brave, essentially. So it's actually for our listeners out there. If you've been trying to find. This is I guess a free plug essentially.
This is not an ad. This is not an ad.
It's not an ad. But if you've been trying to
have heard of this.
If you've been trying to find like a browser or anything that doesn't track your I'll say your cache too much or whatever, or your cookies, sorry.
It's just like it's a search engine to protect your privacy, right?
Yeah, privacy protection. Don't throw ads at you. DuckDuckGo does it. Brave. I downloaded Brave because I'm just preparing myself for the Web 3.0, which we can also talk about at a later time on this. Who knows? But that's what I downloaded because I don't like people to know my location for all the type of stuff I'm doing. I don't like to be advertised at. I just want to have 2001.
You just want to be able to search. You just want to be able to search. Ooh, 01, great year.
2001 internet.
We didn't realize how good we had it. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you want to advance and all those type of things, but now we're just inundated with BS. There's streaming. There were streaming wars, and everything's going to get consolidated. We're going to have cable again. It's a mess, right? Now we have too many options. We're watching stuff on TikTok. And speaking of TikTok, you can find us.
Big release. Big release. You can search C Talk Podcast and find us on TikTok.
You can. I'm not gonna lie. It is. Everyone's always like when you get on it. I've never really been on the platform. I was like held out because I was like, I'm a millennial. I'm gonna just stick with Twitter and Instagram. I'm gonna see the TikTok on Instagram anyways, right?
Yeah.
It is addicting.
Well, let me tell you one. I don't put it on my phone because I know China's looking, China's watching, and I don't need any foreign countries on my phone looking at what I'm doing. That's actually, honestly, though, one of the main reasons why I haven't. It's pretty bad. I say that in jest, but it's pretty bad. That's why make sure it's not. If you do TikTok and you're able to have an iPad or something, another device that you can put it on that device. Don't put it on your main device. That's just us knowing what's really out there. Just giving you a heads up if you're not privy to it.
We're getting into that Obama Into the World movie right now.
No. We're just throwing out random scenarios. We're just throwing out ideas. We're just throwing out comments and seeing, where the masses might lie. Similar to what Shaq had done in this past week, which is a very controversial take, possibly. But when it comes from the GOAT, Shaq gets a pass, but Cam Newton can't get a pass when talking about sports. That's a whole nother thing. But when Shaq says it, people listen. So he stood up. What did he say?
I don't mind hitting the Cam Newton thing real quick because I think that was crazy, right? The way people talk about or have talked about Cam here, and I thought his response was perfect, right?
Yeah.
He is a former MVP. He is a former Heisman Trophy winner. He went to a Super Bowl. And he went to a Super Bowl. Go back and look at that team, right? Devin Funchess, Ted Ginn Jr. Like, they had nobody on that team.
Was Greg Olsen on that team? Yeah,
Greg Olsen's on that team.
Yeah, he was
outside of Greg Olsen, right?
He was his best offensive threat.
Right. And no offense to Greg Olsen, he's not in the same class of Kelsey or Gonzalez or Gronkowski, right? Like, he's really, really good, but he was kind of a step below that.
Yeah.
And what all Cam was trying to say was, like, there's a difference between a game manager, somebody who's going to distribute the ball and do the right things. And if you do the right things and follow the game plan, you have a good chance of winning, or somebody that you have to truly game plan around and they can at any time take over a game. Yeah. And he's right. He was one of those type of players.
Yeah, his comments weren't wrong. It does highlight to the fact that a game changer, this could also be controversial, has not won the Super Bowl until maybe Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I'd say Pat Mahomes, right? Because he doesn't follow a script. He just he's winging it. I'd say Aaron Rodgers as well is not a game manager. And they won in 2011.
Yeah, but Aaron at that time with that team, I think he was a game manager. But he could make the off schedule, but the off schedule wasn't his standard. If you see it, Mahomes is more off schedule.
I see what you're saying. You're saying Mahomes' standard is off schedule, where in 2011 you feel like Aaron Rodgers was more to the script.
Right, and he'll make the read, and obviously when it breaks down, that's where the specialty of Aaron Rodgers comes out, and he makes those throws, and you're just like, he's wow. He does what Tom Brady can't do, still does what Tom Brady can't do. And what Tom Brady was able to do is diagnose, understand the defense, understand what the call is, know where he needs to go, and position the ball in the right spot, and boom, you have as many Super Bowls as he has. So Cam, people love to disrespect, and there's a lot of recency bias, and I think that leads into what Shaq was leading into, and why Kenny Smith was so surprised. Like, Shaq, you're
Kenny
gonna say
Kenny was shocked with it, right? Kenny was like,
Kenny was shook.
wait.
He was like,
like,
what eggnog were you drinking in the green room, brother? What were you doing back there besides sleeping?
But I think the thing with Shaq's comments though are they're not untrue.
Okay.
I think Steph Curry. Okay. I think Steph Curry at this point, I think I can confidently say if we were to say, hey, what are your top 10 to 15 players? He is absolutely in that discussion. Now, I think where Shaq got a little tongue-tied is he said he's an all-time great. And I love Steph, as if anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge Steph Curry fan. I don't think you can put him in the same class as LeBron or Jordan or Kareem yet, right? He's still got some years to go. He's still playing at this unbelievable level at 36 years old, or about to be 36.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the thing about it, though, is he's gonna, if he gets another championship, this is where you have to start. How do you caveat all this, right? Okay, let's say if you put Steph Curry right now 10th all time, right, or 10th or 12th or wherever, right? Okay, then he gets another ring, and he keeps adding to the 3-point list. He's still top 3, top 4 in the league, wherever you want to put him, right?
Right.
But if he gets that 5th ring, now what do you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you bump him above? I've always had Magic as like my 4th best player, right? Like my list is Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic.
Okay. All right.
And then I kind of go back and forth on like, do you put Larry 5th or Wilt? And then then for me, I get into like the newer age people, right? And I've got Kobe high on my list because I think Kobe's one of the best basketball players I've ever seen, right? So with Steph truly changed the game of basketball. He's the best 3-point shooter we have ever seen.
Oh,
he's a
double down.
Let's be honest, right?
Ever seen? Yeah. Okay.
And he is truly what Becky said the other day, right? As she's talking about Jalen Brunson, she's absolutely right. He's an outlier because he is 6'3", and he's a rare guy at 6'3" that can not only change a franchise, but can carry a franchise to win a finals, right?
Yeah.
And I think that also you have to not give him extra points for that, but you have to like kind of, I don't know how you want to like caveat that. I don't know how you want to like really talk through that, but that to me is a huge part of his legacy. The fact that he is a 6'3" slight guy, right? Without the burst of a Ja Morant or a Derrick Rose or Russell Westbrook, just this dude that truly understood how to play the game and then could shoot the lights out.
I will say stats are a little bit skewed, and it plays into the favor of Curry because we have some great I'll say college and NBA insiders, and today's game when it starts at the junior level, meaning college, the focus when it comes to a guard or smaller position players, it's not there. Khalil, oh my gosh, he was supposed to go to Seton Hall, and I'm just blanking out his name right now, but he was like a 5'8" point guard, supposed to go to Seton Hall, ended up deferring and went overseas and played professionally. But he was like a true unbelievable point guard, explosive. But you're like, oh, this is another kid that could continue the reign of being able to allow smaller players. And granted, again, Steph's still over 6 feet, but you don't see smaller guards being able to play in today's game because a lot of coaches are thinking, especially when you get into D1, I need the bigger guard. I need that lottery pick because that is what the NBA also is looking at. So I can solidify myself here for the school. I can solidify us as a prominent feeder into the NBA. But also that's the trend everybody's doing. So everybody's going to follow along. It's kind of a sheeple thing a little bit, unfortunately. So the smaller guards get pushed out of the game. And so what Curry has done is amazing. I do think, though, on the flip side, to that point, like I wish we could have seen what an NBA could look like if they allowed the Jalen Brunsons, they allowed the Currys to be able to flourish pre-NBA in college, to have that same high ranking or same thought going into the NBA and having a plethora of smaller guards.
What do you mean?
So that you could. I would love to see what smaller guards are to the point of, and this would go to having Curry as an all-time great because he changed the game as a 3-point shooter. He changed the game being able to allow smaller players to be in the league to a point. But I would love to have seen if the league didn't stifle the growth of great guards that played well through college that weren't on the same stature of being the 6'4", 6'5" type of I would say hybrid 1-2. You see bigger guards now, and
but I think it's less stifling,
the
right?
model.
Take an Allen Iverson, who
it would make Steph's accomplishments greater in my eyes.
Well, what I'm going to say is that I don't know if it's true stifling as opposed to it is so difficult to be a small guard and be effective at a higher level in basketball, whether that's really top tier D1, right, or in the NBA. And I think that's more. And I think I understand what you're saying, but it's just height. It's just tough, right?
The court shrinks down. I get it.
It's just tough. Understand. Like it's tough to get your shot off. It's tough to get into the lane. When you get in the lane, now you get a 7-foot guy. Like it just changes how you have to navigate. What Isaiah Thomas did, the Isaiah Thomas for the Celtics.
Yeah.
What his run was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was sustainable, right?
If he won a ship, do you think it would have diluted Steph's greatness?
I don't think so. I think I think you'd be an outlier. I mean, in the last what's it, 40, 45 years, there's only been 2 guys under 6'6" to win. It's Isaiah Thomas out of Chicago, right? Yeah. Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, that's what
and Steph Curry.
I don't know why I said New York for a second. Yeah, D-Town. Yeah, it sucks that if you're don't let this discourage you if you're in high school right now. You're like, oh, I'm sub 6 feet, but I'm balling out here. You'll get into college. Don't be discouraged when NBA doesn't come calling like that.
We talk about it as Hawks fans, right?
Yeah.
Like Trey is awesome offensively, but there's another part of the game, right, where he just gets hunted. I mean, he's actually played really well. He's actually played really. I'm going to say a caveat. I've said caveat a few times today. Yeah. He's played really well on the defensive end this year. But again, what happens is it's hard when your best player is 6 feet tall. It just is.
But it's just more of a shortcoming on his defensively. It's not literally because he's short, playing words, I guess. But I don't know. His focus hasn't always been on the defensive end of the ball. So
sure.
Not knocking him. Maybe, he has trying, and I'm sorry if that is his best effort, then I apologize. But it seems like he could give better efforts. The season is long. I get it. Let's see when we get towards the playoff. And but yeah, well,
I guess we forget about Dwayne. The person that we forget about there is Dwayne Wade, who's 6'4". But I guess we don't consider. I think I don't think we consider Dwayne Wade short or small.
No, I always looked at him as he was just explosive, bigger guard.
Right.
You would have had the same thing if he didn't get hurt, and sucks he got hurt. D Rose, obviously, but it just seems like every time you had the smaller guard, life gets in the way a little bit, unfortunately. But yeah, we do forget about D Wade, but no, I think Steph can be in that conversation. I don't have him in that conversation. I think Shaq might have been on that yak just a little bit. That green.
You don't have Steph in the top 10 right now?
No, I don't have Steph as one of the best players of all time.
Well, hold on, but I would say top 10 is. I mean, if you're saying you're the top 10 of all time, that would be the top 10 best players of all time, right?
No, I mean, for me, I'm like, if I hear of all time, I'm like, oh, I'm giving you 5 players. I don't have him in my 5.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't have him in my 5. Top 10, debatable, yes, but 5, no.
Yeah, I don't have Steph in my top 5. That's why I was saying if he gets the 5th one, now what do you do?
Then it changes the conversation. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Now let's transition real quick of when it comes to greatness.
Sure.
There was a big. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, it's still always Twitter. Don't care what people are saying. If you didn't see it on Twitter, there's a big tweet that popped out from Rashard Mendenhall about middle of the way white folks commenting to African American players about sports or NFL players about the game, and that they should keep their comments to themselves, which then sparked, which I thought honestly brought a lot of Twitter together. We have to think about it. It was a great discussion, I think. And Ryan Clark took a little too serious on the response. I saw that he commented back to Will Compton about it, but I thought it was a great discussion of because it's fun. It's literally what you talk about in like locker rooms. It'd be like or just like with your buddies. You're like, if you had an all white team versus an all black team, who would come out on top? Who hasn't had that discussion? It's just
the tough thing is in this climate, it's a little tricky, right? With all the things that are happening and all the stuff, right?
You got to know how to talk about it.
You got to know how to talk about it. But it's always kind of an interesting, fun, I think, topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Will Compton was pretty funny about it on the pod and then on Twitter too, as well. But
yeah,
I mean, it's just we're going to get into a discussion about white cornerbacks in a second, but I don't know who. I feel like you're taking. I mean, you're definitely. I mean, who's guarding Tyreek Hill?
Like nobody. Who's guarding Tariq? Who's guarding Justin Jefferson?
I guess they could put Christian McCaffrey out there on at corner.
Jamar Chase. I don't know. I mean, because I just don't know of any recent white cornerbacks. This was early 2000s through the 2008 period. Oh yeah. You'd be all right. Be able to get a couple dudes. The dude from was Joe Juravicious, or was he wide receiver? No, he's corner. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Jason Sehorn is the last
great,
very good corner.
He was good.
Right. And then you had the kid Riley Moss, who was drafted last year at Iowa, who ran like a 4.4.
You got Boner, he runs like a 4.3. He's on the practice squad for Miami right now.
But what happened? Let me set this up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You won Player of the Week with a couple interceptions. You're a small corner that played for UConn, right?
Yeah, I was.
Why? Mm-hmm. Truly, why is there such a disparity in what we see on the field? Especially because, you see the Wes Welkers and the Edelmans in the slot. Like, why does that not translate to the other side of the ball?
Listen, when a quarterback comes up to the line and they see a white corner out there, they like, hey, this brother's getting cooked. I'm coming right at him. We had a slant called. Change that. We going to a go. We're taking it deep.
You're just on the line, just Randy Moss. Let me throw my hand up.
I don't know. I feel for my white brethren out there in the DB, because I'm a DB. I'm a DB all day. I rock for our brotherhood all day, every day. I don't know why. I don't know why you just don't see it. You don't see a lot of white corners. You do see white safety. I will say this: if you see a white safety, that boy can ball. Every dude that's played at Notre Dame. I'm talking. Let's take it back to when they played Reggie. Oh my God, Joe Samardzija? No, he was a wide receiver. I keep throwing wide receivers out. Who's the other dude across the ball?
He was a receiver, and he pitched as well.
If I see a white safety, that dude.
Who's the dude on the Vikings? What's his name? I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name right now. Yeah, you got
Harrison Smith.
Him, Eagles. He's nasty. He's good. I don't know. It's when it comes to the corners, you know who you got to look at?
Reed Blankenship. He is good.
Blankenship. You know, when you got to look at the coaches, and from head coaches down, which means don't look at and call racism to the brothers out here, because if you look at the stats, the majority of brothers, we are not in those positions of being a head coach, because the directives come from the top down. So you got to look at your top coaches. Why doesn't Nick Saban want a white corner? I don't know. That would be who you need to start with. Those are you got to start at the coaches, the head coaches.
Well, I got this idea to talk about this from Pablo Torre's show. I want to make sure I credit that. And Foxworth said something interesting there, where he was like, yeah, I mean, the dude Riley out of Iowa last year was a corner, and they had already on the big board, they'd already moved him to safety, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's to your point about it's not. I mean, it's not y'all in the cornerback community boxing these dudes out, right? It's the people in the front offices and the coaches. And yeah.
I don't know. They're like, man, he doesn't have the hips to rotate with a Tyreek Hill out there. But you know what? He's sound fundamentally. He's got the intangibles. We can throw him back there about 20 yards deep, let him play middle of the field. Let him use that intelligence. He can go left. He can go right. Next thing you know, that's consistency coming down the lane for some tackles, maybe some INTs. But when he go on the outside, it's going to be a liability. You know what hurt everybody?
Remember
when
the
they
Titans?
Put Ryan Gosling out there. Ryan Gosling set the tone for white cornerbacks. They should have. We all know Hollywood can stretch the truth as much as they want. They could have just had a brother out there struggling. Now the whole notion of white corners is a full liability out there. It gets solidified.
So you're saying it's Disney and Ryan Gosling's fault of why we don't have white cornerbacks in 2023.
100%. If they would have just put a brother out there and just be like, hey, brother's having a tough game, we got to put Petey back out there, no one would have batted an eyelash. But then you put Ryan Gosling out there, they're like, see, told you, white folks can't cover. And then it sticks with us today. I don't know. I think I want to blame Hollywood. That's the only place you can take it. Everybody's been blaming Hollywood today anyway, so let's blame Hollywood again for the reason why you don't see white cornerbacks.
Great scene there as well.
Even
when he gets when he comes out of the game and the dad's yelling, great scene.
Yotes!
Don't pull my kid.
He's just getting beat like a drum out there.
I always forget that that's Hayden Panettiere. I think her last name.
Oh yeah, Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah, she's like the little girl in that.
Yeah. I mean,
great cast.
It's been a long time, and in that time frame, it's been a handful of white corners. Yeah, you got to look at the front office though. You really do. It's nothing to do with because if you go out,
handful is a stretch. I mean, it's truly Jason Sehorn. Then there's no one for a while.
Yeah. You got to look at. I mean, if you go to these camps and as you know,
I think everybody's like when you're at because like for you,
a lot of white corners.
Yeah, you were, let's say, first discovered right at that Nike Spark Camp, right? So take us through what are you doing, and to your point, like what's the demographics at a lot of these camps?
I would say it was probably about 20% when you get to like when it's good when you're getting up in the talent like with good talent. I would say about you have 20% sprinkled in with some white folks out there on the outside, but that's corner. I would say it goes up to it was probably like maybe 30. I'll give it up to 30%, including safeties. But then when you go to like big camps, it's probably 50-50. Everybody's out. Like it's
right. Everybody's just
really
trying to get in.
Right. So it really does come down to what coaches deem as a solid prospect for that position. And I mean, take like Apoka from he ran that like you remember when Dion at the combine was like, oh, he can run. He was a safety, but he could also I think play corner and like line up in the nickel. He was out of Penn State. It's just really interesting to the mindset of how they want to set these rosters once you get into the higher talent, higher caliber players, obviously in level of college and then professional as well. So don't look at people on Twitter, IG, have conversations with them, have conversations with the head coach.
Agreed. Interesting conversation. I'd love to see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with you, man. I feel from my white corner brethren. We got to get y'all. We got to get more of y'all out.
Yeah, it's the same way that we can extend an olive branch both ways, people. How we are trying to get into the head coaching game and get more opportunities there. Not like everybody can't do it. We're just not being put in those positions to be allowed to flourish as a head coach. It's the same way for white corners. We struggling in two different lanes, but got the same issue. So we can all come and extend a helping hand during this holiday season.
It's a great comparison there. That there's no segue to getting into this, but I think the hope is this is a great conversation here because NIL feels like it has taken on many different routes here, right? So many people call it the Wild Wild West, right? I am a huge proponent of just NIL in general, right? And we'll get into the good and the bad, I think, of that. But it does feel like not only has it changed the landscape of college sports, but it's really changed the way that coaches and teams operate. Taylor, what do you obviously for you from a football perspective? Baseball's so different, right? But from a football perspective, what are some of the challenges right now that you see, especially that UConn is having to face with this new kind of era or space that we're in because of NIL?
Honestly, I'm going to include baseball in it as well. Any team that is top 30 is going to run into a similar issue, especially because I'm very interested. I don't want to say excited because that's going to be a bad word. I'm interested to see how Mississippi State and how Texas A&M and LSU run the game when it comes to baseball, because that's going to set the standard, I think, top down. Because you can make a lot of money in baseball, especially whoever gets that partnership with oh my god, what's the Perfect Game? Whoever gets that, like, that type of partnership, I think, whether if it's like, I don't know if you're being able to use your likeness out whenever there's Perfect Games everywhere, like so and so came through this, but you're
I don't know if you can.
That's a lot of money behind Perfect. Do you know how much money's behind Perfect Game? And then being like, say, the focal person.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I think that's difficult there because Perfect Game is truly catered to the high school and, like, the AAU kind of ranks there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if. Yeah, I think I get what you're saying.
Sterling did it. You can be next.
Sure.
Cutouts to Sterling everywhere. That is a lot of money because Perfect Game happens in every state essentially.
Sure, but I think the question really is, like, how do you as a coach now, right?
Yeah.
How do you look at your 1 to 3 to 5 year outlook? And I think that has now been completely eroded. Right. I think you're truly, as a coach, looking at it from a year-to-year basis, because once you recruit a kid, they get in. Yeah, sure. They've got NIL valuations, all that. Cool. I mean, yeah. I got no issue with that. Right. I don't think anyone does. I want kids to be paid, and I want kids to be paid what their worth is. That's always been my proponent. Right. Now, my thing for the longest time has been, my anytime I would get an argument, especially like, as I got into the corporate world, I would get into these arguments. I'd be like, all right, but a band member who's on a full ride could then go put out a CD, or they could do a tour. They could do whatever. They could make money, again, just using their image and their likeness, right? Right. At the time, right, an athlete could not do that, right? Everyone was like, well, they're on a full ride, and that's something. All right, cool. I mean, okay. I'm not saying there's not a value to a scholarship, right? Right. But all we've ever been asking is, like, hey, we just want to be able to make money off of who we are and what our brand is and what we are as a person. Yeah. Okay. Now what's happened is there's a value to you as a player, whether you're in high school or you're a transfer or whatever the case may be. And again, that's fine. But I think that's now making it so hard for these coaches and really programs to be like, all right, well, like, are we going to have this kid for a year? Are we going to have him for 4 years, right?
Right.
And do you put the same, like, resources into that kid? I think that's I think that's such a hard thing.
Yeah, I think, and it's gonna suck to say, like, it's pretty short, honestly. I hope it's not the NCAA that does it, but since they're the governing body, you have to put some type of regulations on top of what the NIL is right now, because on one hand, and I know we talked about it a little bit before in another pod, but you're not allowing coaches to coach, and I don't mean by that of, let me bring this young man up and turn a young man into a man, or provide them the technique to be able to be a better player. You're not allowing the school to get a foundational base to even establish, like, an identity for what the team can be, because it is a carousel every offseason if you aren't the major players of the world, and we all know who those teams are because they're financially backed really strong, and on top of that, like, they're in the environment and in a sturdy conference, so there's no issues. So you're gonna have the middle of the way schools playing catch up forever, because there's no way that you can keep anybody that could be deemed a first rounder, obviously, but a second round to fifth round pick can just jump ship quickly and take advantage, obviously, because there's a monetary value to it. And then also might find yourself laying into a better situation, team wise, an atmosphere, school, who knows? So you're at a disadvantage not having any type of regulations in. So I think it's pretty simple that you have to have some type of governance around NIL, not capping, because like jobs, there's uncapped commissions. Have that as well. Allow these kids to get paid, but it has to be structured in how you can collect that dollar amount. Because even as a worker, if you're fired or you want to leave, your dollars are cut off. I haven't seen a contract firsthand, so I can't tell you that. I'm still working on that one. So I don't know like what it means to honor the relationship for what you're going to do. But also in the same sense, like if I was making 50K at one school and I break it off and I'm not going to be paid, but I can make 75K at this next school because I'm needed, even if it's a backup role, it's just a better opportunity, then I'm going to go. So, but I think the easiest thing that I've thought about, and I've talked about this with groups of friends, if you have it as a 2-year minimum, wherever you are, 2 years for you to touch your NIL money. I think that will allow coaches to at least develop a base, so that then you can have some type of success off of that. And then now that player on that after 2 years can be like, you know what, like we can stick around with this. This is fine. And the tough part is, I would say 2 years to the sign of a contract, because you might have a player that here's a freshman, now starts contributing because they got brought up and built up into the program. And as they've now hit that mature peak, they're looking elsewhere, but maybe they just signed that contract. Well, like if you want to see those dollars at all, you have to be here with us for 2 years to bring that, and let it mature. So I don't know. It's a bad.
I thought about that as well. I think, I mean, if we're going to sign contracts, right, and we're going to be giving you money for, to your point, for performance, or just for us to entice you to be here, then we want you in the building, right? And I said it earlier. I mean, these schools pour resources into these kids, whether that's academically or on the sports side, right? Or just like to your point as a person. So I think, I don't know how you govern. I don't trust the NCAA to govern that. I think, but I would love to see something of that, right? Some sort of commitment, right? And maybe it's a school by school kind of thing, to your point, where it's like, all right, if we're going to give you $500,000, then we're expecting you to be here for at least 2 years. And if it doesn't work out, and I think that's the tough thing for us as former athletes. Like, I get it. Like, if a situation does not suit you anymore, absolutely, you should leave. And before, that was always the bullshit thing about it, is you couldn't leave, right?
Right.
Or not, you couldn't leave, but you had to sit out. It was a whole thing, right? The transfer, transfer was such a bad word back in really pre 2014, 2013, whatever.
You're damaged goods in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Now, and so like if a situation does not suit you, or you're looking at it like, all right, I'm maybe not as talented as I thought I was. I need to go to a place where I can play, prove myself, get reps, and get better. That also happens, right? But I do think there is a part of this where guys are getting into the building and being like, all right, well, I mean, I just want my talent to showcase, or I don't want to say afraid of the work.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's nothing wrong with sitting for a year, competing, and then fighting your way. I think that's the thing. I feel like there's less of a fight for your opportunity at some of these places, because it's like, all right, well, if I don't see a path at Georgia, quote unquote, see a path, then it's like, all right, well, I'll go to Michigan State.
Right. And the bad part right now is, if you look at football specifically, you can have a major school. We'll stay out in the West Coast. Let's take UCLA. UCLA looks at a Akron and is like, your starting linebacker can be a great backup for us. to the coach. Like, hey, like just let me know, like tell me about this player. But here, say if the kid ends up transferring to UCLA, Akron is stuck with a hole that they have to fill. Whereas if this is
and
the
they
NFL,
probably can't fill, right?
They have to now scramble in JUCO or like change or shift their prospecting methods. And if this is the NFL, all right, you want my player? Well, let me get so and so off the bench. And now we're at a whole complete different level because if there's no regulations to what we're doing, you have a free agency with no trade prospect, and now these teams can't catch up. But who are you? Like, there's no way to dictate. Be like, hey, I know you've been out here on the sunny West Coast, but we're sending you to Akron, Ohio. Sorry, pack your bags. Like, but there's money involved. Here you go. You take it. I don't know.
I struggle though with trying to regulate a free market.
Yeah,
I just struggle with that, like personally. And
I don't struggle with how they can make the money. I struggle with how they're positioned at their given institution to allow that to honor, I guess, to that team. But
sure.
where is the honor when it comes to a coach? But because a coach can jump, which a player can jump now as well.
Yeah.
But it's very tough, and I completely understand. But I just think for how much of a hole and how much of a void you put into a program if you develop into a great player and then now you move on, because we've seen this. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience of UConn, but I don't want to harp on the Huskies. It's just you're in a very bad spot right now with college football or NIL in general.
Yeah, I mean, look at Indiana. I know obviously we got a new coach, but I mean they're in a tough place, right? You're competing, especially now with UCLA and USC being in the Big Ten. Like you have these big money schools now you're always competing with, and just in your backyard, right? You've got Notre Dame and Ohio State and Michigan who are poaching kids from not just Indiana, from like the surrounding areas. And yeah, it's difficult. So I don't know. I'm with you. I wish there was a way for us to find a balance so that roster and like you can create a roster in an environment, but also kids have the ability to move freely and make as much money as they would like to.
I think I just solved it. I just thought about it off the top of my head because there's no way to.
It's gonna be terrible.
No, it's gonna be fantastic. There's no way that you can cap, like you're saying, an economic opportunity, financial opportunity by a player. But we can hold the schools accountable because the only reason why this player is trying to leave is because they've been contacted externally. So let's put it this way. If a player wants to leave, oh God, this is about to be good. If a player gets contacted by a school, in the first contact, we can get into the minutiae or the granular details later. But a player wants to leave. Texas calls Middle Tennessee State, and Middle Tennessee State has a 3-year starting quarterback, and like, hey, we would love to. We will, tell me about it. Like, is there any way that we can pull him, or it's behind the scenes? He ends up wanting to go to Texas. Yeah. Texas then has to pay 2x the NIL of the player departing that school, because if you really want him to just to the school, so then to the football team, so the team can then use NIL in their own respective right to bring in somebody to fill. I think that makes it honest. And if you really think that you truly feel that player,
you're saying if they are poached, not if the kid enters into the app, right, or whatever. If the kid enters into the portal, you're saying all good. But you're saying if they're getting hit up by coaches on DMs and all that, and they are poached, you're saying there has to be a fee, kind of like in soccer or something like that.
Right, because and it's twofold, because people are like, hey, if you're listening to this right, like, well, if they just enter in the portal, this circumvents everything you just said. But the only way that you know that you have some type of value is if you've been contacted. Because if you take a stab in the dark, and
the portal shows you, and there's a few companies right now that are putting value to, players that are out there.
Correct. You can dab your feet in unofficially, but I think what they take, for instance, players that are looking for a better opportunity, those players are taking a true stab in the dark. I think, but how would you track somebody having contact with so-and-so That part I don't know, but
Yeah, so
I
because
would
also
think
kids have agents now, or can have agents.
can a little bit, but I do know for how it operates that coaches do reach out. And if a coach
Oh yeah,
reaches
of
out,
course. I'm not saying they don't.
yeah, and if a coach reaches out to another team, then that team has to pay an exit fee for that player. Just like soccer essentially, because then that allows that school to go out to
I
find
think
somebody
it's just the burden of proof is going to be very difficult there. I think.
a little bit, but it would make it more back channel. Right now, it is 100% direct. I'm calling this coach if I think if there's say even for a starter to a lower team, I'm calling
Yeah.
this coach like, hey, like what? Just can you let me know like about this player? Like we have some interest. Blah 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 blah. That's the only reason why you know that there's a dollar sign. Look at Matt Rule. You can look at the comments from Matt Rule in Nebraska talking about like it is $1 million for a good player. You know that because you're having these conversations are one out in the open, then two, you see what happens after the fact. But it is straight up of we were looking at this player and opportunity to pass, blah, 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 blah. Whether it's backup, whether it's starter. But if you're gonna have those conversations and it's starting from you recruiting, because Dion's been in the portal.
Yeah.
And those coaches have to talk to other coaches to be able to then identify like how can we bring somebody else over here. UConn just had a player go to Colorado anyways. How the hell do you get to Colorado? I mean, he didn't throw his name in initially. When he did throw his name in, committed a couple days later. Those conversations were already happening. So I would believe that they started through the coaching ranks, being like good faith type of initiation. And if that's the case, then let's reward these lower schools. I don't know how, that's the part like I understand how to track it. Let's reward these lower schools though financially so that they can allow these larger players to leave. Those players can collect their money, $300,000 to them if that's what their NIL is worth, and then an additional $600K on top of it. It makes it very expensive to then go out and poach players, which would then curb this right now. But if you think a player is worth that money to bring in, because they're already throwing millions of dollars at a few of these players. You had 1 point something that went to Sam Hartman to transfer from Duke as a graduate. That is all free game as well because he's a graduate. But, from Wake Forest. He's like, I'm feeling some type of way. You had the dude from Duke just transfer now up to Notre Dame as well. He's definitely getting a 7-figure check. I would think that would be some way that you can compensate that player, that school.
You're compensating the school knowing, especially some of these lower schools, knowing that they cannot compete, right, to be able to kind of fill the void of what they
and that dollar value can be $50,000. You never know. Like it's not going to be millions of dollars. So I don't want to put the scale.
Well, you were saying 2x of what they were getting. So like if that's tough, right? No school is going to sign up for that. If you're to your point, if you're paying $1 million to go get a Sam Hardman, you're not going to pay $2 million to Duke or to Wake Forest at the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, those are your special players. But I mean, I've seen a lot of, and I mean special because I haven't seen a lot of $1 million folks outside of the QB position that I've popped into the tracker, quote unquote, because those aren't official numbers, officially. But that's one way. You have to be able to slow down what's happening, but then also allow kids, if they feel like, hey, my stock is up and I'm gonna let this ride and I can't do this here, let them do that, but also allow these schools. You can all right, make it 1 for 1, 300 to 300. All right, we have to give it 300 back to UConn, 300 back to Georgia Southern. I don't know, like make it fair in some way, shape, or form, but allow, like you're saying, that free market to still
to exist, right?
Run.
Yeah, and you don't want to stifle what is out there for a lot of these kids.
Yeah. Good combo. Hey, I know now we're jumping in to it's pretty much been a recap. We're gonna hit a little 2023 recap for sports tech. We got 10 minutes to hit it. I know that the sports part just kind of went for a while.
Long sports part.
But it's just conversations flowing out for the new year.
Yeah, I think it is. It's the end of the year, right? I hope everybody is able to get a little eggnog, hang out, watch Home Alone, watch Die Hard. Die Hard to me is a Christmas movie. I don't care what other people say.
Mm-hmm.
And take back and enjoy. I think for this, it's been an interesting year. If I'm sitting back and looking at 2023 from a sports tech perspective, I had a little burp there. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the amount of deals in terms of like true kind of investments to startups obviously declined here. That's a total kind of market statement, right? Just not in the sports tech sector. I think the nice thing though, you did see a total. This is back in Q3 when this was announced, right? About 10.1 billion across 317 deals for sports tech. Now that included M&A and things of that nature, but overall, I think you saw some strong signs. I think a lot of people kind of played it safe in terms of like what they wanted to invest in. Had so many companies reach out and like, how do we, what do we need to do? How do we find kind of the right, the right kind of venture or angel to kind of work with? Which that was, I think, difficult. That I think will change as we get into 2024. I think you'll see more deals happen, especially February, March kind of hits. I think as things start to open up a little bit more, hopefully, right, from economical perspectives there. So, definitely an interesting year. Obviously, AI dominated, right? I feel like every time I say AI, I feel like the common Microsoft commercial. But yeah, it was an interesting year. I hope what I've started to see is things will kind of get back to just true kind of what sports tech has kind of been over the past 5-6 years. A lot of the wearables companies dealing with fan engagement. I think for me, I'm kind of getting into the 2024 outlook already, but I think for me, women's sports is going to dominate. I think you're going to see a ton of investment into women's sports, especially in terms of like organizations and teams within Europe. And you're going to see a bigger focus in the American side in terms of fan engagement, viewership, ticket sales, those type of things. How do we influence those aspects? I mean, the numbers for like women's volleyball, women's soccer, the WNBA have all risen across in terms of in-person attendance as well as viewership across networks and across streaming. I think that's my biggest like takeaway going into 2024 is that, right? I think that's the biggest one is how do you continue to look at women's sports and like where are the investments and where should you be placing your money or placing your bets there? And then I think the second one is obviously we're two like very washed up athletes, but I think the creator network is getting bigger and bigger, right? You're seeing more of these athletes getting into this space, not only this space in terms of podcasting, but just like, we just talked about the whole NIL deal, right? Truly making money. I think I saw a figure of like 9.1. No, that might be wrong. No, whatever. I'm just going to throw out a number. It might be wrong here, but I think I saw 9.1 billion is what it's expected in the content creator market for 2024, right? Which is just a crazy number to kind of think about, right? So I think that is my other takeaway is like the athlete. How do you continue to utilize athletes as true content creators, and what does that kind of look like moving forward? Taylor, what are your takeaways?
No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head a little bit for where future investments will go when it comes into women's sports, and the stats show, especially you turn on this past however 2-ish months, even throughout the whole year as well, ESPN highlighting women's volleyball. And then obviously you see, which was awesome, like Nebraska did their outdoor game as well. This is nationally, let me put it that way as well. But and then internationally, you're seeing the increase as well. Women's rugby worldwide, as well as women's football. I'll say it official for since we're talking across the pond, but women's soccer and the investments that are going there. So I do think women's sports is going to have an influx of capital infused into the sport, and from the sports tech perspective, because I think everybody right now is trying to find the opportunities and be just for an example, how can I be a Ryan Reynolds? How can I fit into a lane, find it, and throw my money down and get the return that he got, but spread that across. Not just for a specific sport, but spread that across from equipment, AR, VR, all things. But how can I find that lane to invest in? So I also think, just to add on to that, your ESPN 8 the Ocho type of sports,
alternative sports,
your alt sports. So rally car racing,
Ping pong viewership.
Ping pong is major. I mean, we just had the interview in our last pod about it, and then you have archery. Who knows? But like those type of sports, I think, because those are going to be your lower entry points when it comes to
drone racing is also big. Like there's so many alt sports out there, to your point, that I think you're going to see more investment. That's a great call.
I mean, you can come in as an angel investor on the low end, and how can I be able to now throw my name in and try and get up to the leagues, or try and get up to the level of being a very, very small share minority owner for a major club or a major organization. And this is that pathway. So I think you're going to see a lot of investment into tech for the alt sports as well as women's sports. And I think you'll see that blow up coming in through 2024.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll hit a couple here. Like Tay said, we did a lot of sports today, so do a couple updates here in December on the sports tech side. Wilson Golf drives into the future with an AI-powered club fitting that analyzes every swing in real time for a personalized, game-changing experience. Check this out. This is super cool. You all know that we both love golf. Love what Wilson is doing here. Hey, well, if y'all need a little guinea pig, one of us has a better swing than the other one, but happy to help out.
That'd be me.
That would not be that one over there. New York-based gaming content creation studio and platform All-Star landed $12 million in a Series A funding round. Next, we have Los Angeles-based Ripples, a startup behind a multi-patented geolocation platform, raised $3 million in seed funding from our friends over at KB Partners. And the last one is, we've talked about it a couple times on here, so I wanted to highlight it again here with a little acquisition from Toka Football. They acquired Quad Indoor Sport. Toka's the world's leading tech-enabled soccer experience company and the largest operator of indoor soccer training centers in North America. So right now, I believe they operate about 15 total centers in the Midwest. So that's a really big acquisition for them to really expand their footprint here and then hopefully abroad as well. And that kind of rounds us out for the December Sports Tech updates. If you're not following the Sports Tech Atlanta newsletter, we throw some of these in as well and just have like a nice big story for you. So definitely go to sportstechatlanta.com and subscribe there. Like we said earlier, if you are not following us when we just launched it, I know it took us a while, but we are on TikTok, so definitely go search us out there. I think the tag right now is my name, which is SteveMac22, but we'll change that over to Seed Talk as quick as we can. As always, continue to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the things, right? Add Seed Talk. Continue to rate and subscribe here. And one little thing as well, we are now an affiliate, an ambassador of Fanatics. So if you're looking for last minute gifts or you need some sports gear for your people, we've got you covered as well. Check out Sports Tech Atlanta for discounts there as well for any sports related gear. Fanatics has so many things, especially trading cards too, if you're into that. So check us out there as well. And we wanted, Taylor and I would wish you, everybody, happy holidays, a happy new year. Thanks so much for rocking with us this year, and we'll see you in 2024.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.